Greetings everyone. Today I'm going to share some thoughts about electrical hygiene and how to care for your aura or your bioplasmic field, the living field of bioplasma which is in and around you. How to care for that in today's world, and what is that? Much of the inspiration for this video comes from Dan Winter, who is possibly the most intelligent human being on the planet right now, in my opinion. He's formerly an electrical engineer, but he knows everything around physics, all kind of science. He's also appears to be part magician and spiritual adept. So the thing about him is he has really integrated all of this knowledge into a seamless understanding, which he shares freely. And he has many free resources, many websites, all of which I'm going to link in the description box below. So electrical hygiene begins with understanding that the human itself is electrical. The human body is a capacitor. What is a capacitor? I definitely looked it up. A capacitor is a device that is capable of holding electrical energy, which we call charge. And the more coherent or ordered the field of energy within this capacitor, the more that it can hold. You see, because it's almost like it can pack more in, like a fractal, like it more can pack molecularly because it's more ordered. So in the mineral kingdom, a crystal is a wonderful example of a fractal. A crystal is formed because a certain mineral is under a lot of pressure. And so the molecules of that mineral are forced to become more organized in order to accommodate the increased charge. So this is why crystals are natural amplifiers and capacitors of energy. But it's not limited to the mineral kingdom. So fractals are found everywhere in nature, and they appear to be nature's storage device. As I'm going to show a few pictures, examples of fractals in nature, but it was actually Dan Winter who made the discovery that the actual field, the molecular structure of the electrical field of living beings itself is and can be fractal. And in the same way that in the mineral kingdom, the pressure stimulates the mineral to become more organized, the same thing applies to in the plant kingdom, in the animal, human kingdom, and also applies to galaxies, solar systems, and universes. And that in and of itself is an example of a fractal. As above, so below, as on the macrocosmic level, so on the microcosmic. So the cultivation of one's aura can be described as certain practices, behaviors, lifestyle that will result in a more ordered field around you. And certainly the most well-known and time-honored practices for the cultivation of coherency in one's aura and gathering charge are none other than yoga and Tai Chi, Qigong, any of the contemplative practices. According to Dan Winter, is when you're still and silent, your field is naturally allowed to expand and gather charge. The other thing about the practices of yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, is they're all about integrating and harmonizing body, mind, and breath. So the more harmonized we become between these three systems, what we're doing with our body, what we're doing with our mind, and what we're doing with our breathing, the more those flow into a seamless whole, the more coherent our auras become and the more charge we gather. It's much more conducive to do these types of activities and practices when you're in a natural environment that has naturally fractal air. And this is the whole issue around cities and metal buildings and places that are full of electrosmog, because this EMF pollution or electrosmog has the effect of splintering the fractality of our auras, or interfering with or interrupting our ability to naturally synchronize our body, mind, and breathing and become coherent and calm. Because there's always some kind of stress in these types of environments. And the other thing is there's no bare earth available for grounding. The good news is that as we cultivate our coherency and our capacitance, its ultimate manifestation is really the gift that keeps on giving. Because according to Dan Winter, the human, actually, we have the capacity to become what he calls a longitudinal, implosive, negentropic system. In layman's terms, it means that we can experience bliss. Because when something is having so much energy, which is so ordered, it becomes self-sustaining. It becomes a self-sustaining system, like a star. That is actually the destiny of the human. So, what went wrong? Habits, lifestyles, and lack of awareness, number one, as to what a human is, what a human can do, and number two, without not having awareness of how we're losing energy or how we're leaking. So one can ask the question, well, what would you do with more energy? With more clarity of thought, more physical energy, more creativity, heightened levels of immunity or resistance. So these are all the side effects of increased capacitance, increased charge. So our aura is essentially our first line of defense against outer invading influences, parasitic influences, whether they be virus, bacteria, or people, or places. If you find yourself regularly feeling drained, then you are already tuned in to a higher than normal level of sensitivity. Because the truth is that we do not stop or start at our skin. An increasing number of people today are demonstrating qualities such as clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairvoyance. And these people fall in the category of having full-blown ESP. But even if we don't personally are not at that level, there are infinite in-between stages of our developing consciousness and sensitivity. Here we can introduce the concept of sacred space. And it's true that some churches are indeed sacred space, churches and temples, but there are also certain points on the earth that are sacred in terms of their location. Their location, the magnetism of that spot, and certain atmospheric qualities. Sacred space can be defined as an atmosphere where the air is fractal, charged, and rich in negative ions. Negentropic, or charge implosive. Locations on Earth like this include, as I mentioned, certain sites, certain buildings, certain pyramids. And often those monuments and pyramids are built on sites where the geomagnetic lines of the Earth cross, forming a node. In terms of where you live and where you spend a lot of time, there's something known, it's really an emerging field. It's called biologic architecture. And that is all about living in a home or living and working in a space that actually is designed for organic life. So biologic architecture is built in a co-collaborative spirit with the surrounding landscape and considers the magnetic lines, underground water, and its distance or proximity to sources of electrosmog, such as cell towers. Essentially, biologic architecture is working in harmony with the natural features and resources of the land, instead of merely ignoring it or working actually against it. Further, biological architecture is based on a certain, the structure will have a certain geometry in its floor plan. And the materials used to build it are considered to be dielectric, which allow the plasmic biofield of the living organism to expand. There's been experiments with these types of structures, and it's been shown that seeds germinate faster and larger, and wounds heal, and living beings regenerate. So that's essentially what a neg-entropic field is. Neg-entropy is the opposite of entropy. So, in the mainstream world, we're told everything's falling apart, everything is going into chaos. That's the centrifugal force, where systems are losing energy. But there's a whole nother side of the equation known as neg-entropy. So neg-entropy places, and now today, in today's world, there are actually devices that are neg-entropic. And these are devices which are used medically, obviously not in the mainstream, but are used and have been used in certain situations, which allow regeneration and healing and reverse aging. So who doesn't want to sign up for that, right? So what do we do if we're not near a geomagnetic node, or and we don't live in biologic architecture? What do we do if we're living and working in an environment full of metal and electrosmog? So there's some fixes, and that's what my work for now is all about, is trying to make the inhabitable habitable for living beings. And so this is why I always recommend, if you're working with computers, if you're working with electronics, use EMF protection products, wear pendants, use laptop shields, cell phone shields. And it's actually recommended, evidently, Dan Winter himself uses Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi. And definitely not Bluetooth, because that's transmitting a signal right into your head, right into your brain. So I'm going to go down the list of some certain hacks that you can do, and all the products that I mentioned will be linked below. But I always recommend the book Earthing. Is really quite literally your plug-in, to a major energy source. And get outside, walk in the woods every day, breathe the clean air, breathe the fresh air. If you're living in a city and you have no access to nature, I understand you may have your reasons for living there, but if you're interested in growing your aura, it's not the place for you. Sorry. Wear natural fabrics such as cotton, hemp, silk, things that allow your skin and your aura to breathe. Don't sit in metal chairs, sit in wood chairs. If you can avoid cooking in metal, that's recommended to cook in glass. Use glass cookware. Wooden spoons. Using EMF protection products in your home. Using orgonite. Using orgonite pyramids in your home. These are passive negative ionizers. They clean up the air just by having them here. This one is made of pure shungite. Use crystals. Have crystals in and around your house. They're energy amplifiers. They're dielectric. Quartz crystal, amethyst crystal, any kind, the bigger the better. Wearing them on your body. It's not woo-woo. It's actual physics. And if you do live in a city and you're inside in a room full of electrosmog, I definitely recommend you to get a negative ion generator. Things to avoid if you want to grow and expand and implode your aura. Avoid cities. Also known as kill grids. Avoid sitting in metal chairs. Avoid living or working in a metal building. Avoid using aluminum. It's highly toxic. And avoid taking metals into your body. 3, 2, 1. Whether they're administered by someone else or through something that you're eating or through tap water, it's toxic and it will hamper your ability to be a capacitor. The human aura, the plasmic biofield, is kind of the soul itself. It's the soul itself. It's what reincarnates. It's the energy. It holds memory. Avoid eating food wrapped in foil. Avoid wearing polyester. It's plastic. And it prevents the skin and aura from breathing. Don't use polyester sheets for the same reason. Avoid wearing too much metal on your body, unless, like metal jewelry, unless it is gold, platinum, or silver is okay. Avoid holding your cell phone up to your head. Oh. Don't do that. Use speakerphone. Use wired headphones if when you need to use headphones. Avoid holding your laptop on your lap. Avoid sleeping near a smart meter or a router. Avoid keeping your cell phone on all night or having it by your head. I put my cell phone on airplane or I turn it off. Don't use Bluetooth. I mentioned that. And avoid wireless headphones. I mean, I understand sometimes you have to do it for a little bit, but like in terms of like if you're going to listen to music and you're going to have your headphones in for a long time, I don't recommend that. I think we're at the end of this presentation. I hope you found it helpful. I'm going to link everything I mentioned in the description box, and including the blog from my website where all this is in a summarized form. And so thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best in growing your aura and making yourself into a implosive, negentropic, longitudinal, plasmic bubble of bliss. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste.